The story of a light bulb moment. Actually, this is going to be the story of two light bulb moments because the two of them kind of fit together to start creating a new paradigm that I can talk about in non-duality teachings. The first one, many years ago, was running across Jill Bolte Taylor's story of my stroke of insight. And what was so amazing about that, and just get on YouTube, you're already on YouTube anyway, right? Search for my stroke of insight, and you'll be able to see her TED Talk if you haven't run across that before. What happened with Jill is that she had a stroke in the left side of her brain that shut off the part of the brain that's capable of doing language. Yet she was still completely aware and awake. So this is fabulous to think about with non-duality, because what it means is we're always talking about, turning off the mind, the mind is illusion. And she physically and medically proved this, that you can just physically shut down that little part of your brain that is involved in language, that is your little storyteller. It's the thing that we call the mind, that, the critical, always talking part. And in non-duality, the mind is the thing that makes us feel like we're separate from other things, because we can use the mind to define things, like cat. The word cat. Now, cat, I can say the word and I can start believing that a cat is something completely separate from me, when in reality we're so intertwined that the separation is very nebulous. So this part of Jill's brain shut down, and yet she was completely aware. And she just went into what we look at as the non-dual state. Now, the interesting thing to think about is she was completely incapable of taking care of herself during this time. Fortunately, she had people who took care of her, and she actually had a really good medical team who helped to rehabilitate her back from this state, because actually it was a broken state. You can't just be completely mindless like that and still be, functioning human being. But she comes back and tells us the story of this state, and how once the critical mind was gone, all she saw was just the unity of everything, and how it was just instantaneous about like that. And when she did her rehabilitation and came back, she was still able to remember being there. And then she was able to start seeing, oh, that was there all along. It's just that the noisy brain seems so noisy, and we get addicted to it. And we start thinking that noise in our head is us. And we start believing that we're separate. So she literally describes non-duality in a perfectly, medically proven. So she's fabulous. Follow her, read all her books. My Stroke of Insight. So I read that, and that just completely changed the way that I was teaching non-duality. Because before that, all I had was the same tools that everybody else had. Try to calm your mind and go beyond your mind. And then there's all the crazy questions of, well, is your mind still there? Well, yes, your mind is still there. You're just not attached to it, etc., 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 etc. Powerful moment number one. Then powerful moment number two, also, let's be honest, came to me from the writings of another woman Braiding Sweetgrass. I read that book. I mean, it'd been out actually years. I'd heard about it, and then one day I just happened to read it for some reason. And I'm reading it, and you got to read it. I've talked to a lot of people about this since then. They're like, oh, yeah, I started that, but I couldn't finish it. But you need to read it all the way through. It starts out, it's really fun, kind of goes through a little dark area in the middle, and I think that's where most people kind of quit, but then it comes back. And through the whole book, I'm reading this book, and what it's about, for those of you who don't know, she is part Native American, and she's also a scientist, a biologist. And so she's talking about her relationship to plants as a scientist. But she has this, from, birth, she had kind of this different native perspective that she was able to use. And she just slowly weaves this thing together, or maybe I should say she braids it together, because it is braiding sweetgrass, right? So she intertwines this story of how the native perspective of life just is naturally interconnected. That it starts out with an idea of interconnectedness. And so how she was able to use this native wisdom that had come to her, even faintly from her family. Like I said, she wasn't full 100% native blood. She was raised kind of in both worlds, but how the native world just always was there, percolating underneath. And so she's able to see how everything's interconnected that way, and just be in the non-dual state naturally. So I was amazed, and so I started searching to find all sorts of other native, I'm going to call them philosophers, how they're describing it. And what's amazing, I'm doing this video 2023, and in just the past short time, maybe 5 years, 10 years, all these native people have been finding a voice to bring stories and books and wisdom to us about the native perspective in life. And every single one of them, no matter where they come from, is describing living in the non-dual state. And even more than, the non-duality that comes to us from Hinduism, even more than traditional non-duality is able to tell us, because in the native perspective, you can't be non-dual all by yourself. And that only just makes sense, right? You can't be in oneness all by yourself. Native cultures had, you always had your whole tribe and your family. And not only that, just the way you would be in a small tribe, but everybody moved around, and they intersected and interacted with each other, and they would come together and do ceremonies. So they're describing this way to live in a non-dual state related to everyone and everything. Not only the people, the plants, the rocks, the trees, the earth itself, soil. Soil's alive. Everything is alive from this perspective. So what's so fascinating about it is both my stroke of insight and all this native wisdom is telling us that the non-dual state is our natural state. It's our natural place to be. This makes all the difference. This totally changes the non-dual search, because we're not looking to attain and become something better. We're looking to go back to who we've always been. And think about it. This is what every single non-duality teacher is telling us. But it's been really hard to hear it because we don't have the stories and the perspective, the historical perspective, to put this together. So I am going to attempt to talk about this in various different ways in all my upcoming videos and put it as best I can on my website, maprimzarine.com, and send it to you in my newsletter too. So subscribe to that if you can. Let's see how good I can do bringing this new idea into the YouTube and consciousness world.